of almost 5 years in, things that we're doing well, things that we're working on. I think we'll start with the first positive that we agreed to as we kind of brainstorm, like, hey, what do we want to share about? Is one of the things that we do well, that's a principle that we have heard about and love and try to encourage other folks to do, is a principle called ABT. ABT means always be touching.
And I heard it coined recently from Arthur Brooks, who's the professor of happiness, is his kind of silly title at Harvard Business School. It's like nearly impossible to get in his class.
Yeah.
The MBA students are itching to get in there. And so I had never heard it coined like that, but it's a really good acronym
Yep.
for the principle.
Yep. And we like his work. We like his books. Excuse me. Hopefully there's not too much of that. But yeah, so always be touching is just this idea that first of all, think about our personal space. Like our personal space, whatever it is, the 2 feet radius of our being is pretty private space. And we don't really like people coming into that, certainly not invited. And if anyone does enter that space, it's typically in a safe or an intimate context. It's not just a stranger situation. It's funny. I've had clients over the years who are stylists, like hairstylists, and they say it's so wild how open people are in the stylist chairs. And we kind of brainstormed and talked about that a little bit. And the stylist that I worked with for a long time suggested it's because they're inviting me into their personal space. And for whatever reason, once that invitation happens in a way that is comfortable, people naturally let their guard down. And so I think the idea of continually kind of finding ways to be in sort of a touch mentality is continuing to reaffirm the idea you're my safe partner. I can be vulnerable with you. I want you to be in my space. There's something unique about your relationship with me that allows you in. And then in so doing, it's reminding us unconsciously that I can be transparent and vulnerable in this relationship.
Okay. I didn't know where he was going with that. I was hoping he was going to land the plane. You did. I was a little confused when he started
Are we
talking
on a
about
time limit? I don't know. Do we have a
talking about the hairstylist. I'm like, okay, where are we going?
yeah, well,
I
I
thought
need a
you were
haircut.
going to talk about, I mean, here's one thing to be totally honest. We are lucky that you and I both like physical touch. So we are at a big advantage. We know lots of people, you talk about the love languages, physical touch is one of the core 5 love languages. A lot of people, it's not a core thing for them. So we are lucky that in second half of life and second marriage, we were able to intentionally choose someone who likes physical touch. But that being said, we still prioritize these little, maybe the Gottmans call it magic mini touches, like magic mini
I think you're
touches.
doing that, babe. I think that's your phrase.
Oh, I don't know.
Take it, take it. Oh,
Magic mini touches throughout the day where like Mark will pass me in the kitchen and I'm like chopping up something for lunch in between our sessions and he like, pinches my side in a flirtatious way, or he'll touch the small of my back or just come and, kiss my head as he's passing by. So there's just all like basically if Mark and I are in a room together, we have touched each other either upon greeting or departure or at some point. Mark was talking about your personal space. So it is a really lovely thing that we've continued to foster and keep alive, like a fire we've kept alive in 5 years of like really being intentional about always touching because we are in a container of marriage and relationship. And so like we are the primary people who we should be touching. Now, that being said, we know like young moms often say like, I can't be touched anymore. I've got all these kids all over me. And like that's real. That's a real thing. So in that stage of life, you have to be a little bit more mindful of somebody being overtouched, overstimulated physically by little people. And I experienced that myself. But, so I mean, how have you counseled people on that when they're in that stage?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, it's the idea of know thyself. So if you know that you're in that stage and touch is actually a point of exhaustion or challenge right now, or if it's not your primary love language or one of your primary love languages, and so just generally it doesn't register as much. That's why I like the idea of this deeper psychological understanding that there's value in it, and so therefore being open to it or trying to do it, know that it's going to have an unconscious biological reinforcer for the connection. So to say, candidly, like, sorry, honey, I'm spent. I don't really have a ton of, physical expression energy left. That's fine. You got to be a steward of that. But hopefully in relationship, we dialogue it and say, well, can we do again something that is only for us? Maybe it's a kiss, so we kiss each other, on the lips for a few seconds. And that's something that is different than just, holding a baby or having a toddler crawl all over you. So the hope is somehow try to be aware of the exceptional, status of who we are as a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
be
it,
gracious to yourself too. If you're spent, you're spent. It's
yeah.
okay to be gracious, but my hope is self-awareness and conversation at least allows couples to dialogue like, hey, this is really important to me, or I know it's really important to you. I'm just spent right now. Can we kind of limp along and graciously get through this time?
Yeah. So when you're not in, I would say like a crisis season, which is young children.
So sad that having
Yeah.
children, young children's crisis situation. It can feel that way because
I
everything's
know
like,
that's probably that's the wrong word. Intense.
yeah,
In the
intense.
intense season of baby toddlers, children who have a, high physical need. Like I've got a 12-year-old and 10-year-old that like it's just not the need is not there anymore. So that's a good thing to be mindful in that season. But then when you're not in that season and there's no excuse for like, I've been touched all day, it really is. There's so much psychology around how like touching does like bond you and helps pair bond. And also, you're really actually, when you're touching each other a lot, this a moment of affection, you're signaling to your nervous system that you're safe.
Sure.
And there's a guy, Brian Johnson, who's trying to live forever, and I don't necessarily endorse everything he's doing, but he did his girlfriend, his partner, recently left him for like 3 weeks over the winter break in Australia, and I posted about this on my Instagram account. I think he like tracks all of his markers like insanely, like rapidly every single day and he keeps everything airtight. Literally, the air quality he's in, his workouts, the water, the food, everything is measured to the exact morsel. And lots of his levels started to drop. So it was straight up like he posted, he was like, it's literally because Kate's been gone. Like all like my body is signaling like danger and sadness. And like I'm starting like some of my markers for like inflammation have gone up. And that's pretty
Yeah.
powerful because this guy is literally tracking with like more intense detail than maybe anyone else on the planet, all of his markers every single day. And the one tight thing that was excluded was the loss of the presence and physical touch of his partner.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And obviously, you've heard the illustration. We know this with children. Babies need it.
Yeah.
That babies literally go into failure to thrive if they're not actively touched by a caregiver. And so there's something much deeper than just the conscious awareness of, oh, hey, I want to give you a kiss. It's nice to see you, or I want to give you a hug. There is a lot of biology and psychology happening that we can basically help ourselves be the healthiest, very brightest, and best versions of ourselves by just having a practice of just, casually, consistently connecting physically.
Yeah, yeah.
ABT, awesome.
Always be touching.
We got that one down. We're good. We're champs.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. You know, do a negative one?
Oh, really? Do we have to go to that side? We were off to such a great start.
Maybe this will be fun to toggle back and forth.
Maybe.
Okay, so one of the areas we identified that we still have a long way to go is when we kind of trigger our childhood wounds that like come up against each other. So a coach and guide that we work with helped us identify this past summer that basically our childhood wounds like come up against each other like this.
Yep.
And we have the opportunity to heal that in one another or help to heal that our childhood wounds. But they also, it's like kindling on a fire when like my childhood wound gets triggered and your childhood wound gets triggered. So mine was I wasn't seen. I was a middle child, minister's daughter. We moved around a lot. Like my, the consideration for my life or my preference on whether I would have wanted to change schools or states or cities or whatever was just not taken into consideration. And as a middle child, like I did not feel seen. And yours was you're not worthy. And I'll allow you to unpack what that might mean, but just that, like that you weren't enough, like that you weren't enough, that nothing you could do was enough
Sure. Yeah.
for approval or praise. And so like when you start to, if I do something to trigger you, like you didn't do this or you said this or blah, 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 like you just kind of throw your hands up and you're like, yep, this is right. Like I knew I wasn't enough.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And so again, identifying some of the childhood wounds origin, yeah, coming as also a middle child, having a superstar older brother who, not only older than me, so therefore just, kind of naturally through development, stronger, faster, all these sort of things. Also really bright, kind of classic firstborn overachiever. So I felt like in the shadow of, and so ironically similar, we have slight different ways of expressing it, but a lot of similarities in not being seen or not enough. That kind of are our unique wound points. And then, anytime you dive into childhood wound stuff, it's very easy to then transfer the conversation to attachment styles, which is very, important part of understanding relationship, very popular right now in kind of pop psych, relational psychological growth. I have a lot of clients who talk to me like, hey, I'm working on my attachment style, and know that those two go hand in hand. Our unique childhood
Yeah.
experiences, wounds, develop our attachment style that impact our lives today.
Yeah, I don't remember the author's name of the book attached. Maybe it's too.
Sue Johnson. Sue Johnson's the
No, no,
amazing.
no. Sue Johnson is
Oh, yeah.
Hold Me Close.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
guy who wrote
yeah.
Attached is a different guy. It's like Sahil or something like that. And then, so he talks about secure, anxious, and avoidant. And so in unhealth, I go anxious, and unhealth, you go avoidant. And Sue Johnson talks about it another way, which we can also discuss. But basically, when I'm like, hey, you're not seeing me, like my childhood wound, I'm not seen. I am with you because I wanted you to see me. I start to get anxious because then I kind of like want to get in your face, being like, see me, see me, see me. And in that moment, you're like, oh, cool. Like you're telling me I did a bad job and I'm not worthy. So I'm just going to pull away and go in unhealth to avoidance style attachment. And then we get in a really vicious cycle, which is what Sue Johnson calls pursuer distancer, which is just different language. It's a different framework for the same dynamic of like a pursuer is the anxious one who's like, let's keep talking. Let me like crawl in your lap and like let's just hash it out. And the avoidant and then distancer is like, no, 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 like we're not doing that. And so you and I still struggle when we have disconnect on like essentially who gets to win in those like who gets to win. I mean, you try really hard to make sure it's always you
Mhm. Oh yeah.
by just leaving the house, getting in the car and driving away.
That's called a timeout, by the way. We can talk about healthy versions of it, down the road. Yeah, no, but here's what's wild, guys, is like discussing it, knowing it, being self-aware is super important. And the hope is what we're doing is we're over time mitigating the negative ramifications of our wounded self or our reactionary self. But sadly, I don't necessarily, there's not necessarily an automatic fix. And so, to deeply engage in it in therapy and relationship coaching, and practice is to hopefully just truncate or minimize or reduce that reactionary moment. And even, our buddy, Terry Real talks about like literally in a microsecond, we go to this swoosh phase of just like I'm feeling it in my biology and I just got to get the heck out of here. Or you're feeling in your biology and you just got to like, pursue and grab a hold of. And the hope is we're starting to go from a microsecond to a half a second to a full second. And over time and maturity and hindsight analysis, we're reinforcing and re-encouraging that fearful, reactionary wounded child to say, you don't have to freak out so much. It's okay to just sit for a minute, allow yourself to be in the discomfort of your discomfort and your partner's discomfort, which is still tough for me. I'm not going to lie. Even though I sit in discomfort all day long professionally, sometimes the discomfort here just feels literally overwhelming.
Because I think you maybe are immediately when I say, "Hey, I don't like that you did this," or "This hurts my feelings," you're potentially immediately triggered into your childhood wound of "I'm not worthy," and so then you're kind of like, "Fuck it," like I'm okay, cool, like walk away, I'm done, let's end this relationship. Like you go so dark, which I think is triggering your childhood wound.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. And I don't, then it becomes sort of polarized, my childhood wound and my, kind of adapted teenager, that says like, forget it, I'm out of here, F you, I don't need to hang out with you. And so I can get the hell out of here if I want. That's still a reactionary self. So like, ouch, that hurt. You can't hurt me becomes sort of the 1-2 combo that activates the avoidant.
Mhm. And what's interesting with my childhood wound is that like part of the reason why I fell in love with you is because you did really see me. So I think that's what's hard for me and disconnect when I have a moment where I feel wounded and back triggered in my childhood wound of not being seen by you. I get so upset because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is why I fell in love with you because of your ADHD and your hyper focus. Like when you have an ADHD person like hyper focus on you, like it's the most lovely feeling in the world. And so even this summer when we had a disconnect in the desert with your friends, and I said, why I was upset, they were like, oh, your expectations are too high. And I'm like, that's normally he would have done this. He would have done this thing to see me and say hello and re-greet me And I was like, no, that's our norm. Is like Mark is actually, this is his wheelhouse, like his strike zone of like making me feel seen and loved. So that's out of our norm of operating, you know?
I love you. I
Oh,
see you. I see you.
thanks.
Okay, so we're still working. We're a work in progress. We're still working on that.
That's probably the biggest one, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. But again, that's also like, the Gottmans talk about, you may have the same fights the rest of your life. And so there's no guarantee that the topics or the things that come up that really trigger you and cause sort of this immediate feeling of disconnect, they may never go away. What we hopefully add though to our tool belt,
They
are
would say they won't go away.
they say they won't.
Yeah, they won't. So you've got to figure
Sorry.
out how to manage it.
Papa Gottman said it's not going to go away. You're never going to, alleviate that entirely. But you will, if you're intentional and you're willing and you're growing and you want to be better, you'll develop tools, resources, and hopefully a little more, hopefully some healing and conversation within your inner self. We can go all the way, down another conversation about inner child dialogue and how we can basically nurture and care for and speak lovingly to our inner child while our inner child wants to react and freak out. There can be healing, but again, it's the idea of a process and never fully healed. That's sort of the enjoyment of this human experience is
And that's
continuing.
why it's important to work with a therapist or a coach if you actually really need that help in your journey, in your relationship journey or marriage.
Yeah, yeah,
All
definitely.
right, number two on the positive side.
Okay, I like it. Number two is our bedtime routine. We feel like we're doing this right. This is a positive. This is something we're pretty excited about how we have synced up in a way that really creates a ritual. And it's been really a fun, sort of a dynamic of our relationship.
Yeah, I was trying to think this morning when we were talking about it because we're trying to get back on track. Mark just flew back from California yesterday, and so poor guy is on West Coast time, and I kind of pulled him to bed last night on East Coast time. Maybe a little earlier than he would have wanted. But somebody I can't remember. I want to find it now because I consume so much stuff about relationships, marriage, intimacy, connection. Somebody I read recently was maybe it was his needs, her needs. Something I recently consumed was basically like you have to go to bed at the same time. Like that's like not even a thing. Like this person was very adamantly black and white saying like if you don't go to bed at the same time, like you won't make it. Like which I think years ago I would have been like, that's crazy. I'll never forget. In my first marriage, I was listening to a podcast of these three political pundits that I liked, and they were all good friends. They did this weekly podcast together that I enjoyed. And at the end, it was two men and a woman. Like one of the guys and the female, they were like, do you guys go to bed at the same time as your spouse? Like two lived in DC, one was in New York or something. And the two were like, "Oh yeah, 100%, of course." And then the other one was like, "No, like never." And like the two other people were like, "What? Like John, like you have to go to bed at the same time as your wife. Like that's insane." And I remember thinking like, "Oh, like that's weird." Like because my first husband and I never went to bed at the same time ever. And so I am now in the camp of like, I think it's pretty important.
It's pretty important. Yeah. I'd be so curious. I don't know like what the stats are.
Mhm.
I'd be so curious like how many people like those podcasters you're listening to would say, of course we do it all the time, or like, no, that would be novel or new or even hard. I also want to acknowledge like
Yeah.
truly there are some like some natural biorhythms that people are more morning people or night people, night owls or morning larks.
Yeah.
And you see that with kids, so like even like if you have a kid who just wakes up at 5:30, 6 a.m. every morning, like that kid is on a body clock that is a morning, person, most likely in their natural, biorhythms. Where the people are more late night. Also, practically, let's be honest. I know that for some folks, you think like, okay, finally, life is quiet. The kids are in bed. I finally have some time to work or to think or to have some me time. So it's understandable that there's this very natural need for self-care. I need to stay up and take care of some
Mhm.
things or enjoy a show or whatever, that feels uniquely, empowering or uncomfortable. Totally get that. And I want people to have appropriate recuperation time. But I think this is one that if we could move towards some compromise, I think it would really serve people well in their relationships.
Yeah, one of the compromises I know of, I actually have friends that the guy does work much longer and later than his wife, but when she goes to bed, he gets in with her and kind of holds her and cuddles her until she falls asleep. and then he kind of slinks away and goes back to work. So I think that's a really lovely workaround if it's like
Yeah.
absolutely not an option for you to go to bed at the same time. But if it is an option, as Mark just said, like it's a really, I'm gonna have to find it because they do a great job of talking about just even like the spiritual connection of like going off to sleep together. Like there's something really lovely spiritually. And then also as I was, we were talking about ABT and physical connection and even mentioned babies like skin to skin. Like oftentimes, at night or in the morning, like that's when we get our skin to skin, which, you know, is not necessarily at all like sexual. It's just like a physical connection between Mark and I, like that skin to skin, the calming, like our co-regulating of our nervous systems
Yeah.
and holding each other for this intimate moment at the end of the day. And, falling asleep together, whatever rituals, if you read together, or maybe say a prayer or meditation, and then turn off the lights and like fall asleep touching. Like I have a good girlfriend who is dating after divorce, and she and her boyfriend fall asleep holding hands every night, which is just so lovely. And she did not do that with her first husband. And you and I, like I fall asleep in your arms. We fall asleep like spooning together, which is just like so lovely. It's like such a treat to look forward to.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I like that. And I'm okay saying so. We get in bed. Anna will put her head on my chest for a little bit, and we talk for a few minutes, and then I say a prayer. We started that some time ago. And we say just a quick prayer, blessing our kids, blessing our families. Just asking for wisdom in our lives, and then we will at the moment
We tape our mouths shut.
So we're on the trend of mouth tape. So we put a piece of mouth tape on. We'll say, I love you, put a piece of mouth tape on, and then give a kiss with our mouth tape on. So it's kind of a fun little, just like kooky little thing that we do. Give a kiss with our mouth tape on, and then roll over, turn the light off, assume the spoon position, and fall asleep. And at some point,
At some point we untangle.
at some point one time, because I wake up and my arm's dead asleep or whatever it might be, and so I gotta roll over and give some blood flowing to the arm. But no, it genuinely, it's a fun connect. Even talking about it, we hear like there's two things to it. There's tradition, there's routine, there's ritual.
Yeah.
That obviously is a bonding factor. And then biologically, skin to skin, just intimate space, shared is also just a nice reinforcer to say we're doing this, we're figuring this out.
We're figuring it out.
We're figuring it out with Mark and Anna. All right.
On that lovely note,
Are we going all the way through? We're gonna go. We got enough time? You need some more water here? We got enough time to go. I didn't realize these were gonna be so expansive. I love it. I'm gonna have to get some more water for my own
at
self.
least do
Okay.
at least do one more negative.
Okay.
We
We'll
can
keep
do
it
it.
balanced. We'll keep it balanced. Okay. Well, the idea that we thought of that, because there's so many positives and so few negatives because I know relationally I do everything right, and so she's such a lucky girl to have.
I
such a-
literally stood there as we were brainstorming what to talk about. What does Mark need improvement on?
Oh, geez. Okay. So what we came up with is just this basic idea of honoring each other's preferences. And so it's so important to realize, like, we all have our natural preferences, things that I enjoy, things that she enjoys, things that are kind of naturally energizing or fun or connected to us, or things of our, adult life, different stages of life that we enjoy doing that may not be shared with one another. So how do we hear and honor each other's preferences, specifically when they're not aligned?
Yeah.
We're not feeling the same.
I mean, we're an interesting match because we are both pretty fiery and we're both really selfish. Whereas I think a lot of times in relationships, there's usually one person that kind of stands down. Like we, for better or for worse, do not have one of us that stands down. And so I think that's something that we continue to work on in our dance together is like figuring out, like, I want to do what I want to do and he wants to do what he wants to do. Like, I want to eat here, he wants to eat here. I want to go here to walk, he wants to go here. Or like, I would like to spend Friday night winding down, like having some tea and watching a sports game before we go to sleep. Whereas Mark wants to go to a concert with loud noise and music and bright lights and like be in a crowd. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like my nervous system can't handle that, but like I don't want to be apart. So like who, like in those scenarios, because we are both like super selfish and want to do what we want to do, it's like who wins?
Yeah.
How do you counsel people when they come to you?
Yeah. Well, I want to use
nobody as selfish as us.
fair vocabulary. I don't know if that's true. I mean, we definitely have selfish tendencies. Part of that comes from our childhood wounds. So we both kind of feel like we were unseen or unheard or unvalidated. So, it's a deep rooted thing. And yes, we can have a selfish tendency but hopefully we are aware enough to know that that's not going to win. So
Yeah.
in our better self, we know I don't want to give my selfish tendency, the power. In our weaker self, it's like, no, damn it, I want my selfish, intent to win. So again, the theme throughout a lot of these are self-aware. Is this serving me well? If I dig my heels in and prove this point or insist on this, is it serving me well? So hopefully both of us are trying to, mitigate our shadow side, which a part of that is selfishness. How we doing on that? No, so what's great is
You get the idea. We are figuring out the dance of when to stand down to each other's preferences.
yeah.
Because I do think in a lot of relationships, one person is more like, okay, whatever, like whatever you want.
But hang on,
And like you and I always have a stated preference. And so it's not like we're like always butting up against this, but occasionally.
which is totally fine. If that's a dynamic where there is sort of a yin and yang, kind of an asserter and a, compliant dynamic, like that's fine. And that can go either way. If he's in kind of more the gas and she's happy to come along, or she's the gas and he's happy to come along, that's perfectly fine. You have to figure out your rhythm and your dance. In a lot of contexts, you and I could both be full gas and unchecked full gas in opposite directions, which would not be great.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, no, like Anna says, even though we are also both extroverts by personality type, which is again a relational asset for us, and some couples are opposite, introvert, extrovert, have sort of a compatible,
Yeah.
draw to one another. We're drawn to, the same dynamic. But energy wise, like I feel that extroverted need sometimes. So I'll have a long day of sessions where I'm, doing a lot of video work these days. I'll have a full day of clients on video. I come downstairs and I'm like, I need to be where the people are. I'm like Ariel, I want to be where the people are. I need to be where the people are. So literally, I might go to the grocery store. I know it sounds kooky, but I just need to be around people. I mean, sure, I'd love to go to a concert or hang out with my friends and do something fun, but I've got to go be around other humans in IRL, in the real world. So that's a big need where Anna might be done and not want to go. So how do we handle those?
Yeah, I mean, because I'm also an extrovert, but if I have a full day of clients, my energy is gone. Like my tank is empty by the end, and then I need to recharge. So you're like high extrovert in terms of that, of like you have a day of like engaging, and what you want to calm yourself down is to be around more people. So it's exceptional. I mean, a lot of times we do in those moments have to say, okay, in these moments we actually do have to each do what we each need, with the ideal of like we come back together at bedtime,
Yeah, yeah. And we learned this, kind of the hard way, because there have been times that I would be assertive and maybe you were trying to be, like complimentary. Say, cool, let's fine, let's go. I can do it. But you didn't listen to yourself enough.
Yeah.
So then we go and we do the thing and I'm getting my hit and you're feeling, beat down in it. And then that created, unpleasantry. So, trying to navigate those things, yeah, can be kind of tough. Are there other things besides just the extroverted, path?
In terms of honoring each other? No, I mean, it's other smaller things like I want to go somewhere nice for dinner. You want to go to a dive bar.
Yes, that's a big one. Taco Tuesday. Yes, that was a big, moment of conflict. I'm like keeping it real with the people, man. I want to go to like just, Orange County, Costa Mesa, taco dive bar. I have no problem just being, whatever, just a friends in low places kind of situation. And then my sweet and beautiful wife wants to be in a nicer place. And so I can go lowbrow. She wants to keep it high, in the nicer places. So we've had moments where there's been kind of like, some conflict in that. And moments we've compromised and moments that create a little tension.
Blown up in our face. All right. Are we going to try to do two more or you want to wrap it
I
here?
think we should wrap it, man. I think this is good.
And then save those for next week
Save those
or
for next
another
week.
time?
Yeah. I seriously would love to hear. I'm surprised we didn't see these in our studies where it actually shows the percentage of people that do go to bed together. I would love it, to comment, let us know if you're a person, we go to bed at the same time or we don't, or no, just I'm a morning person, they're a night person. But I'd love to hear kind of the general populace of who's morning, who's night, who goes to sleep together.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, guys, this is really fun for us. Please give us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Any thoughts or questions you have. At some point, even maybe do it live and actually have live interaction with folks, maybe doing impromptu coaching or impromptu counseling sessions, for this project. Would love to have it. If you'd be interested in being sort of a guinea pig, spontaneous client, let us know. We'd be open to doing something like that.
Or you can DM us on Facebook or Instagram, like things that you'd love for us to talk about. Like at some point we will put on our stories like an AMA, like, or ask us anything, to talk through like different topics instead of just what we are wanting to talk about. So we'd love to have feedback on what you would like us to talk about.
Right on. Well, it's totally. Hope you guys are well. Hope 2026 is off to a good start. And thanks for checking us out. And we'll see you next time. Thanks. Good sign off, huh?